All right, ready to geek out with us today?
Always.
We're diving deep into the world of Tracy Hickman.
Oh, this is going to be good.
You know him, you love him, he's the Dragonlance guy.
Right.
Right. But there's more to this RPG legend than meets the eye, trust me.
Way more.
We're talking decades of shaping fantasy and gaming, iconic dragons, gothic horror,
The whole shebang.
and navigating that crazy world of publishing. And you know, we've got the goods to uncover it all.
Lay it on me.
We've got a fantastic deep dive from Lit RPG Reads, their RPG Legends, Tracy Hickman article. Plus, 2 insightful interviews with Hickman himself. We're going deep on this
I
one.
can't wait.
Now, you might think a guy who helped shape the world of D&D would have sprung straight from, like, Gary Gygax's basement.
Right. Yeah, you think so?
But Hickman's story, some pretty surprising turns in there.
Oh, yeah.
The Lit RPG Reads article paints this picture of him growing up in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Salt Lake City. Not exactly a dungeon master origin story.
Right. Then there's the 2 years he spent as a missionary, Hawaii and Indonesia.
Not the resume builder you'd expect for a future D&D mastermind.
It really makes you think, right? It challenges those preconceived notions. Like, who are these gaming giants?
Totally. We box in those early D&D pioneers, imagining a very specific type of person.
Yeah, but Hickman's story throws all that out the window.
Out the window, gone.
It's almost like he was destined to shake things up, even from the start.
You think?
Speaking of shaking things up, you heard how he ended up at TSR.
Oh, it's a classic.
It really is. Picture this. Early 80s, recession's in full swing. Hickman's struggling to even put shoes on his kids' feet.
Wow. A relatable struggle for many.
Desperate times, right.
Yeah.
Hickman had been, dabbling in game design with his wife, Laura.
I did not know that.
Yeah. They even self-published some adventures. But with their backs against the wall, they decide to send those adventures to TSR.
Just hoping for a lifeline.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just a chance to keep their heads above water.
And little did they know, this act of desperation would launch a career that would redefine RPGs.
Okay, so they don't just buy his games. They offer him a job.
No way.
Talk about a plot twist. And get this. As he's driving to Wisconsin,
To the promised land.
right, with his family, their new life, he's racking his brain trying to justify this whole thing, brainstorming ideas.
That's when he came up with Dragonlance.
That's when the seeds of Dragonlance were planted. On that cross-country road trip.
That's wild. It really speaks to how those everyday moments of struggle, they can spark incredible creativity. You just never know.
It's mind-blowing, right? So he gets to TSR,
Right.
and they've just finished this huge internal study. Clipboards, suits, the whole 9 yards.
What did they find?
Their big takeaway. Dungeons & Dragons is our core product. 1, we have lots of dungeons. 2, not enough dragons. Talk about perfect timing.
Seems like it was meant to be.
Almost feels like fate, right?
It does.
But before we get swept up in a Dragonlance whirlwind,
Oh, right.
we have to talk about another Hickman creation. One that turned the D&D world upside down.
Let me guess. Ravenloft.
Ravenloft. Even the name just oozes this gothic horror vibe.
Exactly. That's what made it so groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking how?
The Lit RPG Reads article, it really drives home how this was a departure from the norm. This wasn't just, let's go kill some orcs in a dungeon. We're talking heavy emphasis on atmosphere, on drawing players into this world of intrigue and dread.
And consequences. You
Yeah.
can't forget those.
Yeah.
So how did that go over? Was it a hit right off the bat?
Oh, absolutely. It appealed to a different kind of player, one who craved deeper lore, richer narratives, a more immersive experience. It wasn't just about hack and slash anymore.
So Hickman paved the way for today's story-driven RPGs with Ravenloft.
Exactly. It's like he looked at the traditional D&D formula and said, we can do better, we can go deeper. He wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo, to bring in elements of gothic horror that no one else was really exploring in the RPG space.
He really went there. And you know what? You can see his background, his path to TSR, in that he was the outsider, the one who wasn't afraid to break the mold.
Totally. And that willingness to experiment, to take risks, it really defines Hickman's career.
Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it's never more evident than when we get to the Dragonlance saga. This wasn't just a game, it was a revolution. Dragonlance wasn't just about bringing dragons back to D&D, it was about making them terrifying again. Awe-inspiring.
Okay, so walk me through this.
Yeah.
How do you take something that's become, as Hickman put it, the Dragon of the Month,
Right.
and make it this epic, awe-inspiring force again?
It started small. With this desire to recapture that sense of wonder, Hickman and his team, they were tired of dragons just being another monster to slay. They wanted something grander, something that would really grab players.
That's where Project Overlord comes in, right?
Oh.
3 epic adventures.
Exactly.
A whole new world. Man, they weren't messing around.
Ambitious, for sure. But TSR, they saw the potential. They even suggested accompanying novels to really flesh out the world and characters.
And that's where Margaret Weis comes in, and the rest is history. But hold on. 30-plus Dragonlance novels, video games, board games, comics. How did this thing explode like that?
It's more than just a successful game, It's primal, that fear, that wonder that dragons evoke. It just resonated with people on a deeper level. Dragonlance wasn't just a game, it was an experience.
And it made Hickman a legend. But like a true RPG hero, he didn't just rest on his laurels. He worked on other games. He even dipped his toes into video game design.
Hickman's never been one to be confined to a single world, even one as expansive as Dragonlance. He's got this knack, for building these immersive settings, no matter the genre, the medium.
And he wrote that XDM book, right? Extreme Dungeon Mastery.
Yeah. It's like he was saying, hey, you want to create amazing worlds like me? Let me show you how.
Exactly. He's always been so generous with his knowledge, so eager to share his passion for storytelling, for game design.
XDM wasn't just a guidebook. It was a love letter to the hobby, full of insights and that classic Hickman humor.
It's that dedication to community that's so inspiring. And speaking of community, we can't forget those legendary collaborations. First and foremost, Margaret Weis. I mean, talk about a dynamic duo. Over 30 Dragonlance novels together.
They solidified that series' place in fantasy history, no doubt. But, it's fascinating to consider the different shades of Hickman's collaborations. Because his longest-running partnership, it's not actually with Weis.
Wait, really? I thought they were like the ultimate fantasy power couple.
They are, but his most enduring, it's with his wife, Laura Hickman. Remember that YouGeek TV interview? He calls her his secret weapon.
Right.
She's been there since the beginning, co-creating those early adventures. She's the one who introduced him to D&D. She started it all.
That's incredible. I had no idea she was so instrumental in his journey. Talk about a power couple.
Right. And while Dragonlance has that epic scope, they've done other stuff too, like Bronze Canticles and Annals of Drakus, original fantasy, but with a different feel.
So how did these different partnerships, each unique, how did they impact the stories being told?
That's the question, isn't it? With Weis, you get this grand, sweeping epic. With Laura Hickman, there's a shift. More mature, a more personal touch to the storytelling. It goes to show you how those partnerships can really bring out different facets of an author.
It makes you appreciate that collaborative spirit, that fusion of ideas. It can create something truly magical. But even with all the success, Hickman hasn't been afraid to talk about the challenges facing authors today.
He's always been vocal about that, especially in that Through Gamer Goggles interview.
He doesn't hold back, does he? Calling Amazon a singularly destructive force in literature, that's a pretty bold statement.
It is. But he sees the potential dangers of this new publishing world. He's not afraid to speak truth to power, even if it ruffles some feathers.
I mean, he's not wrong. We all love Amazon, right? So easy.
Sure.
But it does make you think, what happens when it's all about volume? Low prices.
That's his point, exactly. Hickman's worried that focus on quantity over quality, on algorithms pushing the next big thing. It devalues the writing itself. He's seen it firsthand. The blood, sweat, and tears that go into a good story.
It's not easy.
And he's concerned that this new landscape, it might not nurture that same dedication.
So what's the answer? How do we combat this potential literary apocalypse?
For Hickman, it's twofold. Empowerment and connection. Empower authors to navigate this new world and help them forge deeper connections with their audience.
And that's where Scribes Forge comes in.
Exactly.
Tell me more.
It's Hickman's way of passing the torch to the next generation of fantasy writers.
Oh, so?
It's more than just a writing program. It's a community. They have online courses, workshops, even a forum where you can get feedback directly from Tracy himself.
Wow, talk about access.
Right.
So it's like mentorship on a grand scale.
Exactly. And if you want something a little more laid back, there's the Dragonhearth podcast. Hickman and his guests, they chat about all things writing, fantasy, the creative process.
It's so cool that he does that. Like,
Yeah.
He's learned a thing or two over the years, and he wants to share that. It's incredibly generous.
It really is. And you see that throughout his career, that generosity, that desire to lift others up. At Scribes Forge, it's the collaborations with his wife. Even that XDM book, he wants to empower others, to find their voice, share their stories with the world.
And isn't that what it's all about, the connection? That love of a good story, that desire to create something meaningful.
It absolutely is. And as technology changes the world around us, that human element, that connection between storyteller and audience, it's even more vital.
It really is. Well, there you have it, a deep dive into the life and legacy of Tracy Hickman. We had journeyed from humble beginnings to RPG legend. He challenged conventions, redefined genres, and championed the power of storytelling.
He really has.
So go explore his worlds, lose yourself in his stories, and hey, maybe even get inspired to create something of your own. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, keep diving deep.